Hey everyone, this is David Brown from Lyco Birds, and this is the Hawkwatch summary from August 27th, 2022 at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary in Pennsylvania.
Bird, I know that call.
As you can see in the photo, we had beautiful weather. The sky alternated between mostly sunny and mostly cloudy, and it was warm with light northerly winds. This is still very early in the fall migration, so I wasn't sure how many raptors to expect, but we started off the day with this nice female American kestrel. And here's an underside shot of the same bird. There were a couple of common ravens croaking around the valley. One big highlight, we had a flock of 6 lesser yellowlegs fly by, so here's 4 of that group. And here's a closer look at 2 of them. We had some red-breasted nuthatches fly by, which are a very distinctive shape, you can see with the short tails. And this is a species that we normally expect to see more in the winter time, especially during eruption years. But there are definitely ones moving this time of year, so it's always a treat to see this species. We had a decent number of warblers throughout the morning. I think I saw 6 different species. Here we have 2 Cape May warblers together in the same tree. Here we have a juvenile turkey vulture, and it still has some fuzz on the head, so that was cool to see. Here's a barn swallow. You can see the forked tail. And we had small numbers of swallows. I think barn is the only species that I saw for sure. Also some chimney swifts flying around. Not huge numbers of anything, but just a handful. Here we have a juvenile sharp-shinned hawk. And here we have a Merlin. You can see that dark streaking on the underside. And Merlins have big attitudes, of course. So here's the Merlin diving on an adult male northern harrier. And here it is taking another swipe at the harrier. And this was actually the first northern harrier that Hawk Mountain counted as a migrant this season. And we had 3 harriers, 2 adult males and 1 adult female. Here we have a juvenile broad-winged hawk. You can see it's got that classic buteo shape, but the wings are more pointed looking than the other species, and they're smaller, don't have any patagial bars, no belly band. Here we have the adult female northern harrier. You can see that streaking on the underside of the breast. And here's another look at a juvenile broad-winged hawk. Here's the top side of an adult red-tailed hawk. Of course, you can see the red tail there. Here we have a black vulture with a wing tag, and on this first pass, I just tried to photograph as much as I could. It wasn't really giving us a good angle, although it came fairly close. But so I just shot off photos, and when I cleaned them up on the computer, I was able to see that the tag reads 106. Here's a juvenile Cooper's hawk that was flying up pretty high and was not counted as a migrant, I don't think. And a little bit later, the same black vulture came back. And you'll see in the next photos that the tag was actually flipped inside out most of the time, where we were seeing the what's supposed to be the inside of the tag rather than the number side. But just in one photo, this photo here, the tag flipped the correct way for a second, and I was able to get the photo showing the number, which I believe says 106. And people might ask, what's the reason for these tags? They're just put on the birds so that if birders and other observers see them, they're able to report them so they can track the movement of individual birds. And obviously something like this is a lot cheaper than putting on some kind of GPS transmitter, which can cost thousands of dollars. Something like this is very cheap, and you can put them on a lot of birds and collect data that way. And there you can see that's what the tag looked like most of the time. It's just the inside where it tells you, if you find this, contact Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, and has phone numbers and stuff. Here was the first osprey of the day, which was migrating high overhead. Here's a juvenile turkey vulture that flying by with something in its beak. And we wondered if it might be like some kind of snail or something. I'm not sure if we ever figured out exactly what it is, but it stood out when it flew by because even naked eye, you could see like it looked like the head of the bird was a lot longer than it normally would be. And when we took a closer look, it was because it was carrying this object in its bill. Here's some cedar waxwings. We had small flocks of cedar waxwings, maybe 15 to 30 birds flying by throughout the day. And there was some discussion about, is it the same group just moving around or is it different groups? I tend to think that those are probably different groups. But yeah, a really nice number of cedar waxwings moving yesterday. Here's a bird that threw me for a loop a little bit. When I first spotted this bird, I called it out as a red-shouldered hawk because it was in a full soar and it was kind of backlit. And you can see near the wingtips, it does look like it has some translucent crescents. But taking a closer look at more photos, and I just wasn't convinced that it was actually a red shoulder. So it looks like the wingtips only have 4 feathers rather than 5, although maybe this one is still growing in. So let me explain. I think this is actually an adult broad-winged hawk that's just molting really funny. The tail of the bird indicates to me that it's an adult. You can see the tail has a lot of black with some white stripes on it. So I'm thinking it's either an adult broadwing or red-shouldered. And also the trailing edge of the wing looks dark, which again would be a sign of an adult. Now, if this were an adult red-shouldered, you would see more patterning on the underside of the wing. You'd see some orange, which we don't really see on this bird. It's more, it's not good quality, but you can almost imagine it's got the horizontal barring that an adult broadwing might show. So I think this is just an adult broadwing. Plus time of year, we were seeing a lot of broadwings. You're not really expecting to see that many red shoulders this time of year, although they're certainly possible. So anyway, my final conclusion was that this is an adult broadwing, but if someone else has different ideas, you're welcome to share them. Here we have the top side of another osprey. And here we finally had a bald eagle. We went hours and hours and hours without seeing any eagles, and overall for the day we didn't really have more than a couple. So it was nice to finally get one, especially since there were a lot of visitors there, being a Saturday and nice weather. A lot of non-hawk watchers, a lot of just hikers, or some people who came up with binoculars. So it's nice to get everyone a bald eagle for the day. Here we have another female American kestrel. And here's the same bird coming directly at me. I think it was thinking about taking a swipe at the owl pole. And right after that, we had a Merlin. You can see those stripes on the top of the tail of the Merlin. That's a pretty good field mark, and it's just sort of dark overall on top. Either a dark or kind of a dark blue. And then the kestrel and the Merlin started chasing each other and fighting. So the bird down in the bottom left is the Merlin, and the bird at the top right is the kestrel. So the kestrel started off chasing the Merlin, and then the Merlin was chasing the kestrel. And they battled for probably like 10 minutes, and then a sharp-shinned hawk joined in. And I'm not sure how it ended up, but they were going at it in the distance for a while. Here we have an immature bald eagle that migrated high overhead. And here's another osprey high overhead. And again, you can just see that really lanky shape that the ospreys have with the strong crook in the wings. Very distinctive silhouette when they glide overhead. And this is kind of an interesting insect that we saw. Someone told me it's some kind of wasp, I believe. But I really know nothing about things like this other than I looked down and there was the hole in the rock, and I saw that this insect was going in and out, and it would go in and it would come out carrying some dirt or debris, It would come out of the hole and throw it off to the side, then go back in, grab some more. And it did that for a while, and then it seemed to switch to the other way where it was starting to grab stuff and put it back into the hole. And we were only a few feet away, and it didn't seem bothered by us, but it was just kind of an interesting thing to watch during a slow time for the hawks. And towards the end of the day, after 4 p.m., we had a couple final broadwings that streamed over pretty high. So here's one of them. And here was the last migrant of the day, just a super high broadwing somewhere around 4:30 p.m. So we thought it might be picking up. And then I think after this, we actually saw one low broadwing that dove down into the forest in front of us. So it didn't get counted as a migrant. Yeah, that was pretty much the end. We stayed until 5. That's when the official counters left. Although after that, the sun popped out a little bit, so I don't know if there would have been any late push. But that was when the official counters left, so that's when I decided to head out, because it's about a 2-hour drive for me to get back home. If we take a look at my eBird checklist for the day, I had 45 species. 44 plus this other taxa is because the chickadees in that area you can't really identify them to species, so you have to put them down as black-capped / Carolina chickadees. They're one or the other, or they're a hybrid, or who knows. So you just don't worry about it. You just report it as black-capped / Carolina chickadee. And I'll put a link to this if you're interested. You can see all of the photos from the day and the species totals. And taking a look at the hawk count report for the day, we see the species totals were 4 osprey, 2 bald eagles, 3 northern harriers, 1 sharp-shinned hawk, 47 broad-winged hawks, 3 red-tailed hawks, 1 unknown buteo, and 2 American kestrels, and 1 unknown raptor, for a total of 64 migrants, which was the biggest day so far this season for Hawk Mountain. I'd like to say a big thanks to Holly Merker and Jeremy Shivert, who were the official counters for the day. And of course, my good friend Kim Steininger was there as well. One other highlight I didn't mention was we had one group of 18 double-crested cormorants, which, as I was looking at them in my scope and then walked away, my scope fell over. So maybe I don't have such good memories of that species. But anyway, that's what happened. Other highlights, I didn't see this myself, but there was a yellow-throated vireo during the songbird push in the early morning. It's always great to take a trip to Hawk Mountain. We're right at the beginning of the migration season, and throughout September, October, November, even into December, they'll be counting the migrating hawks. So if you have a chance to get out there, I highly recommend it. And if you can't get there, you might have another local hawkwatch in your area. So just get out and enjoy nature, enjoy the raptor migration. And from Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.